Tfue by going to a party last night. This actually happened today. Well, the fuck up happened yesterday, but the consequences are happening right now. I went to a party last night with my girlfriend and got very drunk. We ended up on the floor with 3 other friends all kissing each other, and my girlfriend and a friend of ours left some absolutely massive hickeys high up on my neck. My school is very small, and all of the teachers know me very well, and I respect them, and don't want them to see the marks. I am also graduating high school today in 4 hours, and my dress has a very low neckline. My mom is going to do my makeup, because I don't know how, and she will see my hickeys, which I absolutely do not want her to for obvious reasons. Someone please send help. How do I cover them up? Tfue by naming our Wi-Fi router to mess with our neighbors. After my husband got out of the military, he decided to go back to college for a niche degree. The options for this degree left him attending a very conservative Christian college, that is, somewhat frequently in the news for being, well, themselves, I guess. That's the background. So we moved to this new conservative city that is basically propped up by the crazy college, and moved to an apartment somewhat nearby, but far enough away that it shouldn't have been filled with students. The naivety. It was. We get internet set up, scroll past the 500 FBI surveillance van names, and thinking we were being cleverish holes, shrouded by the anonymity of an apartment building, decided on, Hail Satan, and that's where we fucked up. Surprise! We moved a year or so later. We moved to a house, in the same conservative city, in a neighborhood surrounded by young families and grandparents. We moved our internet over and instantly had the oh shit moment. It's obviously us, the new neighbors, who are trying to make a good impression. Who else could it possibly be? We don't remember the password, and have been locked out from logging in or changing the name entirely. There's no way to reset the name without contacting the router company. We are stuck with it for the time being. Sorry, neighbors. I promise we're friendly. Tweeter anonymously named our Wi-Fi Hail Satan to mess with the cult-like college kids we had as neighbors. We now live next to grandmas and toddlers. The Wi-Fi name is obviously us. Tfue by losing my job for in inventory. Edit. Poorly worded title. Sorry, I didn't lose my job. I lost the company for in inventory. Still work there, let's hope it lasts. This was yesterday, but I was pressured by my friends to put this story here, so here we go. All cash amounts in USD. I'm 16 and have worked as a cashier at a supermarket near me for the past 6-ish months, so I'm still relatively new to some things. At the peak of our rush hour yesterday afternoon, 2 women got to the front of my line with carts full of expensive merchandise. From the start, I noticed they were being very talkative as I was scanning their items, asking me a lot of questions about myself, my life, my job, etc. It almost seemed like a distraction. I wasn't too weirded out by it at the time, as it isn't too uncommon for customers to start conversations like that. They were telling me about their lives as traveling nurses, and that one of them used to work as a cashier at a place similar to where I work. The first woman's total was $2,600, all for things like baby monitors, a breast pump, and other baby supplies. I was very shocked by the amount, as I didn't even realize how quickly it was adding up. It was the first time I had seen a purchase cost this much. This is where it gets interesting. At the end of the first one's total, she showed me a store credit card with instructions on the back that read, "Insert card, then select cash tender." At this point, I was very suspicious, but the card seemed very real, so I let it happen. She was also very convincing, explaining to me how it worked, and that it was a card earned by people with high credit. So I did as I was told. I pressed the button, indicating she paid in cash, handed her the receipt, then on came the next one. She also had a similar cart, with items adding up to $1,300. I admit, by then I should have caught on, and being honest, I feel like an idiot. She hands me a card just like her friends, with the same instructions. To hit cash, I press the same button, but since they didn't actually hand me any cash, I put nothing in the register. It wasn't until later that day that I found out neither of their cards actually read, since I didn't press card tender on the machine. So their inserting their cards was a simple trick. So off they went, with all this merchandise in their carts, a receipt in hand, and not a dollar spent. I consulted my manager around half an hour later and was told that it was definitely a scam. Honestly, I'm still shocked that I got punked this badly. They knew exactly how to respond to every question, having a situation prepared for every item. They talked about a baby shower for some of the items, and I don't entirely remember the rest of their excuses, but it was very well put together. To be fair, looking back, I should have noticed earlier on, but the pressure from the long line behind them got to me. TLDR. I'm a cashier and 2 customers came to my register with around $4,000 in merchandise and tricked me into getting it all for free. Tifu by lying. So I got myself into a bit of a convoluted mess by telling a teensy lie that escalated into more and more lies. Quick background. A few years ago, my mom was transferred out of her hometown. She moved and my brother went with her. I stayed behind, and most of her family still lives here. My brother has a not so great job in the new town, and has been applying for other positions for over a year to try to get something better. I have a cleaning lady who works for me for a half day, 2 days a month, usually a Monday. When she is finished, she drops my house keys at my Aunt A, who stays a few blocks from me. A few weeks ago, my Aunt B called my mom and asked her if she would watch my 2 young cousins for a weekend. My mom fractured her foot a while ago and currently can't drive herself anywhere, but she agreed and said she'd make a plan to travel down. My brother works Saturdays and couldn't drive her, so she had to catch a shuttle down, even though it would be uncomfortable with her fractured leg and the fact that she is shy. I was supposed to be traveling for work in the next week and would be going in that direction anyway. So I said I'd go a day early so I could take her home. That way she would only have to travel with the shuttle once. No problem. She was very happy with that arrangement. Then, towards the end of last week, my boss called the client and rescheduled my trip. I decided to drive my mom home on the Sunday anyway, and just drive back very early on the Monday morning, because it would be more comfortable for her. If I told my mom, she'd feel guilty about it and never, ever agree. So I didn't tell her. I carried on as if nothing had changed. I even packed a suitcase, like I was going for the whole week, the whole weekend. Whenever anyone asked, I told them I was working out of town next week. I don't usually see anyone during the week, so no one would know. We visited Aunt A, and she reminded me to drop my keys off with her so my cleaning lady could fetch them and do her job. I said I would, but made a mental note to reschedule for next week, because obviously didn't have any intention of being out of town and would need my keys. We traveled on Sunday afternoon, and everything was going as planned. Well, according to plan B anyway. Then things started getting complicated. On Monday morning, my mom's colleague, who I'll call C, was supposed to give her a lift to work. C only lives a few blocks away, so it wasn't out of her way. But suddenly, she was being difficult and wanted my mom to meet her at her house so they could go from there. This was impossible as my mom can't drive with her fractured foot and big protective boot on. That's the whole reason for getting a lift. My brother couldn't drive her as a company had asked him to come in for an interview that morning. He'd already had to reschedule it twice because of difficulties caused by his current job. C was being a bitch. My mom drove her around for months last year when she had a shoulder operation, but if my mom ever needs anything, C would never offer to help and will only do the absolute minimum if my mom is forced to ask her. I didn't want my mom to have to face the indignity of having to beg this woman, so I said I'd drop her at work. This messed with my plan to drive back early, so I messaged my boss and said I had to drop my mom at an appointment and asked if it would be alright if I came in late. Not technically true, but I couldn't tell them I was driving her to work because I'd have to explain the whole ridiculous story. So small white lie number 2. He said it was fine, all good. I dropped my mom off and drove the several hours to get back home. I got back over an hour before I told my boss I'd be in, so I stopped at home to change my pants. I was wearing dark jeans that didn't really meet the dress code, and I had the time. I wasn't there long when I heard someone hooting honking outside the yard. Complication number 2. I have a horrible suspicion that Aunt A drove past my house and saw my car in the driveway. She's the family gossip and can't keep a secret to save her life, so if I tell her I was home, she will tell my mom and the rest of our extended family, and I'll be embarrassed. But it's fine. I'll avoid her for a week or 2, and she'll forget all about it. I went to work. My bosses asked about my mom out of concern. I said she was fine, but had fractured her foot and couldn't drive. They didn't know about her injury previously. Now comes the final straw. I didn't reschedule my cleaning lady properly. I asked if we could postpone but didn't specify next week, and she arrived for work on Tuesday morning instead. I was a bit anxious because it meant I'd have to remember to drive home at lunchtime to fetch my keys from her, so she didn't drop them at my aunt's as usual, but not too worried, because that was doable. But I forgot to fetch the keys, so she has dropped them at my aunt's house. I shouldn't have been in town to give her the keys, and I shouldn't be in town to fetch them now. So all of this is going to out the fact that I lied. My is one of those overly honest and direct people who doesn't believe in white lies, even to save feelings. So she won't understand, and she won't just ignore the situation, and she will tell every family member and friend this whole story. I'm currently sitting at work trying to think up a way to explain everything in a reasonable way. But it's getting late, and I'll have to just go get my keys eventually. What a stupid little mess. Tweeter told a white lie to do something nice, and don't want to fess up out of embarrassment, but I'm about to get outed. Don't tell lies, kids.